Have you ever seen someone who doesn't say anything, but whose actions speak so loudly? Amidst the bustle of staff, the packed schedule, and the seemingly ordinary atmosphere, there was one small moment that made many hearts flutter. It wasn't the hug. It wasn't the words of love. It was the way Jungkook stood a little closer than usual, as if he were unconsciously guarding something very precious, and that was Jimin.
It was a seemingly ordinary day.
Staff members milled about, voices echoed, monitors flashed, schedules were pressed for time. Jimin stood with his professional smile, calm, polite, always the gentle look we know him to have. But there was one thing different. Jungkook was never really far from him. At first, you might not have noticed. He was just standing to the side, as usual. But the more you watched, the more it became clear that something felt different. Every time someone approached Jimin too quickly, Jungkook shifted slightly. Not conspicuously, not dramatically, just half a step. Just enough to create distance. It was as if his body was saying, "Calm down, I'm here."
His gaze changed.
Not a sharp, angry glare, but a look of alertness. Focused. Ready. His eyes scanned the situation several times before returning to Jimin. And what left many speechless was, Jimin looked completely at ease. Not surprised. Not surprised. As if this protectiveness was nothing new to him. There was one small moment that made hearts beat faster. As the staff explained something in a rather rapid tone, Jimin seemed to frown slightly, trying to understand. Jungkook immediately turned his head. He bent down slightly, speaking softly near Jimin's ear. Jimin's previously serious face slowly softened. He gave a small nod. It was that simple. But why did it feel so profound? Because that kind of concern couldn't be faked. It wasn't an act for the cameras. It was a reflex. The reflex of someone who's too used to making sure the person next to them is okay. In a world full of pressure, grueling schedules, and the constant spotlight, having someone naturally stand a little closer was a form of comfort not everyone had. And Jungkook showed it without saying a word. Every time things got a little tense, he leaned in. Every time Jimin moved, he matched his pace. Every time there was a potential for discomfort, he was already prepared. Many asked, is this just friendship? Or is there something deeper there? Perhaps the answer doesn't need to be announced. Because sometimes love, or whatever you want to call it, is most honestly seen in small, almost imperceptible details. In spontaneous gestures. In the instinct to protect without being asked. And that day, in front of the staff, without a grand stage or dramatic spotlight, one thing felt very clear. Jungkook wasn't just standing beside Jimin. He was standing for him. And perhaps that's what made so many people's hearts flutter. Amidst the packed schedule, the constant camera glare, and the staff rushing back and forth to ensure every detail was perfect, a simple gesture suddenly caught the attention. Not because it was staged. Not because it was meant to be seen. Just because it happened so naturally. And this time, the spotlight was on Jungkook and the way he was acting toward Jimin. It all started with a seemingly ordinary situation. The staff were adjusting their positions, ensuring camera blocking, checking the sound, and giving technical instructions. Jimin stood there, listening intently, occasionally smiling politely. But at that moment, there was one figure whose position was never really far from him. Jungkook. At first, it seemed normal. They were standing side by side as usual. But upon closer inspection, there was a detail that made many pause. Every time a staff member approached too quickly or spoke too closely to Jimin, Jungkook subconsciously shifted his position slightly forward. Not to aggressively obstruct him, but just enough to create space. A safe space. His movements were subtle, almost imperceptible if you weren't paying close attention. But body language never lies. When one of the staff members tried to show something on his phone screen and moved closer to Jimin, Jungkook reflexively tilted his body, his hands slightly raised as if ready to help explain. His gaze changed, not angry. Not suspicious, but wary. It wasn't just ordinary attention. There was one moment that made the atmosphere even more different. When Jimin seemed a little confused by the technical instructions, Jungkook immediately turned to look at him before the staff member could finish speaking. He leaned slightly toward Jimin, speaking softly, almost whispering. Jimin nodded slowly, his face instantly calming down. It was as if he knew, as long as Jungkook was there, everything would be fine. Many say Jungkook is the quiet, work-focused type. But around Jimin, a different side emerged. A protective, unassuming side. He didn't say much, but his attention was constant. His gaze often sought Jimin before thinking about himself. Even when things got a little tense, Jungkook stood a little closer than usual. His shoulder almost touched Jimin's, as if subconsciously forming a small, invisible shield. What made the moment even more captivating was the staff's reaction. No one seemed bothered. In fact, they seemed used to the dynamic, as if Jungkook's protectiveness was nothing new. And Jimin? He looked comfortable, not awkward, not distant. Even a few times, when Jungkook moved closer, Jimin just smiled faintly. It was a smile that was hard to explain, but enough to make many wonder. Was this just a form of friendship? Or was there a deeper sense of responsibility? We all know that the life of an idol is never truly relaxed. Public pressure, past experiences with sasaengs, and unexpected events make vigilance crucial. Perhaps that's why Jungkook is so sensitive. Or maybe there's another reason that doesn't need to be explained in words. Protectiveness isn't about ownership. It's not about control. It's about making sure someone you care about feels safe. And in that moment, Jungkook made it clear, in front of staff, in the midst of a busy day, without dramatic camera close-ups, that he's always willing to stand a little closer if it means Jimin feels more comfortable. Many fans then discussed those small details. The way Jungkook always positions himself on the outside when walking. The way he pays attention to Jimin's expression when someone speaks too quickly. The way he automatically reaches out when a situation feels cramped. It all seems simple, but it's precisely that simplicity that makes it feel genuine. Because such an attitude is hard to fake. It comes from habit, from a long-standing sense of caring, from a connection that doesn't need to be announced in big words. And perhaps that's what made this moment so heartbreaking for so many. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was real. In a world full of scrutiny and speculation, sometimes the most honest moments are revealed in small moments like these. One small step forward, one wary gaze, one position standing slightly closer than usual. Small things that speak volumes. And amidst it all, one thing felt clear. Jungkook wasn't just standing beside Jimin.
He was standing for him.